Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate how to prepare variance reports in Power Apps. Now, variance reports is one of the financial reports that is prepared by companies or organizations to show what has happened between what they estimated with regards to their revenues and expenses, and then they compare it with their actuals, and then to get the variance report. So when we are looking at right now, we have income with sales, and then sundry income. Also have expenses with rent, insurance, and so on. Then we have the budget column. I have the actual. Then I have the variance, or the difference between the estimated amount and then the actual. Then I also have some icons to indicate whether it is negative or positive. Now I also have dates column, or a date that I'll be able to sort or filter based on the date that is chosen. For example, if I go to February, we see that the figures change to reflect the year or the date that has been chosen. So we will go straight to look at how I came up with this approach of using Power Apps to develop this variance report. Generally, you could have used Excel, but because Power Apps is able to have your reports online where various people could contribute or enter data from wherever they are, that is why we use Power Apps. But the better or the best option with regards to this variance report is to use Power BI. However, where you don't have access to Power BI and we still want to prepare the variance report, we can use the Power Apps to develop it. Having said that, generally, budget variance report, that I've said earlier, is a comparison between budget and then the actual. So for instance, I have my budget statement here. With this budget statement, I have the date column, I have the type showing whether it is an income or expense, I have my amount, then I have the accounting lines. So for example, in January, we have budgeted for 3,500 for insurance. Then in February, I have budgeted another 3,500 for insurance. Then I budgeted compensation 4,000 in February. Then another 4,000 in January. So generally it goes this way until the end of the month. For the purpose of this demonstration, I use 2 months in preparing this. Then I also have some transactions. So having done the actual for the year, as the year goes by, you will be spending or you will be generating income based on the activities that the organization undertakes. So I have some sample here. So in 2nd January, we paid rent of 6,900, and then the expenditure line is there, and so on and so forth. Then I also have my chart of accounts. Now, a chart of accounts is a classification of how various income, expenditure, your balance sheet items, how they will be classified or they will be grouped for the purpose of those who are not accounting, who don't have accounting background. It's a way of grouping your various expenditure lines, your income lines, your asset lines, and so on and so forth. So I have my chart of accounts. I have sample transactions that we have undertaken during the year. Then I also have a budget indicating the estimated amount that we have set for various expenditure and income items for the year. So in Power Apps, I have uploaded this Excel sheet, which is the budgets, transactions, as well as the chart of accounts, into the Power Apps using the data source here. Now this also applies to various data sources that you could use. You could use SharePoint, you could use Dataverse, you could use SQL Server, and all the data sources, it's the same formula could apply. Now, having said that, let's go ahead and see how we are going to prepare this variance report using our. So before to start, I'll insert a screen. Inserted my screen, I'm going to insert a gallery. So I'll choose a vertical gallery, then I'll connect my budget data source with it. So the budget data source, and this is the one that I showed using this Excel sheet. So I've uploaded this, and I show this one on my gallery, and I will change the gallery to remove the images. So you can see that the lines for the expenditure lines is shown, the accounting lines is shown, the type of expenditure, and I will change it to say date. I will change the second one to amount. So the next step is to find a way of joining the two tables. Remember, the transactions are coming from a different table, the budget is also coming from a different table, and then the chart of accounts is also coming from a different table. So when we look at the sample that I showed, we'll see that this sales, the budget is coming from the budget table, the actual is coming from the transactions table, then this header of income and then the expense is also coming from the chart of account. So the next step is to join the first two tables of budget and then the actual. So that is what we are going to see now. So when I look at this, I'm going to use the weight function. There are various ways of going around it. You could have used a collection sort of to join, and then but with the purpose of what I'm doing, I'm going to use the weight function. And then with the weight function, I am adding an additional column called month year into the budget data source. And then for the month year, I am changing the structure of the date and then removing the day so that I will only have a month and then the year. I do the same for the transaction columns, month, year, removing the day and only having the month and then the year. So that is the first 2 points that I'm saying. That using the weight function, I'm changing the structure, or I'm adding additional column for the budget, and I'm also adding another column same as what I did for the budget to the transaction columns. With this, we see that there will be a same column that is duplicated in both sides, which will also help us to do a proper comparison. apart from the name of the column, that is the accounting lines, which is common with both data sources. So that is the next step. Now the other step is to use the same weight function to join the two tables that have been created as a result of this as a result of the weight function. So using the same weight function, I have another code that I've added. Now I have the call budgets, I have column transactions, then I'm adding the third weight function, that is joining the budgets and then the transactions. With this, I am adding a third column called budget amount. Now what I'm doing now is to have the column called transactions or the transaction table as the main table, and then join the budget with it so that it will become one table that we'll be able to use on the gallery. Because remember, as I demonstrated earlier, both the actual, which is the transaction data source, and the budget are on the same table, so that we'll be able to show both of them in the gallery. So with this, I join the call budget and the call transactions into another table. So we have the add column, then I have the budget as a new column that I'm creating, and then I'm having a lookup, and with the lookup I am looking onto the call budget table where the year, the month year in the call budget table is equal to the month year in the call transactions. So I'm comparing the budget and the transaction to see where the years are the same, and there is another criteria where the account code or the account transaction, account description, in the budget table is the same as the account description in the transaction table. Where they are the same, then I want the amount to be shown in the new column that I'm creating called the budget amount. I hope this is clear now. So I get the next joined table. So with this table, I now have the budget and the transactions as one table or one data source called budget joint trans, which is the budget joint the transaction. The next is to do some form of calculations to be able to show it. Okay, so having joined the two tables, I think there's an error here. Okay, so having joined the two tables, we can then do some grouping or summation so that we'll be able to show. With this, I have this code that I have added. I have add columns, and with the add columns, I am grouping using the group by functions and then the joined tables. I am having a group name called sum all, and the group function is a way of having a category put together. So we have multiples of apples in a table. With the group function, you'll be able to have only one line as apple, and then if you have some aggregations in terms of the number of apples, then the total of the apples will be shown as 1 instead of having so many apples duplicated. So that is the group by function. So with the group by function, as we can see from the IntelliSense, takes the source of the data source. The data source is for the purpose of this is the joined table. Then we have one of the column names, which is the account column. And remember, the account column is the name that is used to describe the particular transaction, for instance, insurance, compensation, utilities. And we have similar thing in both the budget table as well as the transactions table. So that is a common column that is in both tables, and having joined them, it even becomes much more easier. So then the group name. Now the group name is any name that you give to what you have done. But however, the account should be part of the original table. The sum all is just a name that I've given. You can give it ABCD or sum none, whatever it is. With this, I am adding a column, additional column into this joint table again, and I'm naming it actual total. And with the actual total, I am putting in the sum of all the accounts, a particular account, and then the amount will be summed and put into the actual. So with this, let's look at how the table looks like. So with this, we see that we have rent, insurance, advertisement. These are shown only once because of the group form function that I use. Here we see that we have multiples of rent. So when we look at this, we have rent, and I type here rent, I see that we have at least two rents as various lines for the transaction table, but with the usage of the group column, we only have one as rent, and then we expect that the group function and the add column that I have added to the join table will sum the various amount for the actual. So when we look at this, we are going to have, we can have the month, year, the new column that I added. So let me look at the exact. We can have the account which is already there, then the actual. So in this case, we have seen that the actual amount has been added. I'm having an error here. Let me look at it. The amount in this case wouldn't apply because we have joined the two columns, and then the new column that we have, actual total, is a summation for all the amount for each of the particular account lines. Okay, so we now have the actual. Now what we are going to do is to, let's ignore this error for now. What we are going to do is to have, so this will be the actual. What we are going to do is now to have the budget as a line. So in that, we can add an additional column using the same add function, add column function. So we have this, and then we can just copy this and rename it. Sorry. And let's change this to budget total. And then this one will be, remember the budget amount that we added. So we are going to sum the budget amount. Okay, so let's insert another text that will take up the budget amount or budgeted amount. Okay, so we see that we have 14,000 for rent as the budgeted, and then the actual amount is also 7,000. Now let's deduct the budget, in this case the budget total, from this item dot actual, so that we get the variance. Okay, so now we see we have the rent, we have the budget total, we have the actual total, then we have the variance or the difference between the two. Okay, so for now let me align it to the top, it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so having done this, we can go ahead and add an icon that indicates that if it's negative, and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's insert an icon so that when we look at the original demonstration that I did, I have an icon that when the variance is negative, I have this red icon. If it is positive, then it shows a smiling face. So let me try and add that. So we are going to add an icon. In adding an icon, you select the gallery, go to insert, and I chose the warning icon. Okay, so let me take the front face, any of them, just for the purpose of the demonstration, and give it a red color. Then let me add another icon with the smiling face. Choose a smiling face. Let me see. Okay, so we have this smiling face. So that if it is positive, there will be a smiling face. Let me give it a green color. Okay, so with this, with the happy face or the smiling face, we are going to show it when the difference is positive. So in this case, we have label 3, or you can use this icon. So visible, invisible, we are saying that where the value in this label is greater than 0. Then for the front face, we have the same formula for it, which is less than 0. Okay, so we have something like this indicating that it is negative. We have a red face. If it is positive, we have the green face. Okay, so the next step is that when we look at this, we clearly see that the income side is mixed up with the expenditure side. And so this is where we make use of the chart of accounts to be able to group it. So to do that, we are going to insert another gallery. So we are going to have a gallery within a gallery. So let's insert another gallery. Sorry, let's insert another gallery. And this case we have to choose a flexible height gallery, a flexible blank gallery. Let's use vertical. If this, we are going to, the chart of account is the header. So in this case, we have the sales, we have, we're going to show whether it is an expense or it is an income or it is a difference. So that is what we are going to do now. So we have the chart of account as the main line. Now, because then let's insert some labels. And in this case, we need the type column. Remember, the type column is the one showing either it's an expense or it's an income. So let me make it a little bit. So we see that we have income, expense, and the rest. However, we don't need all of this, so we are going to filter so that we show only 2 columns. So we are going to filter. Sorry, let's use listings. Listings, so that we have only 1 item per category or per type being shown. Okay, so once you use the distance, we can only use 1 column, which called the results. It gives you the results. So we see that we have only income, expense, and then deficit. However, because we don't need deficit in this case, we will also filter and remove the deficit column from it. Filter this where result is not equal to the deficit column. So in this case, let me copy exactly how it looks like. Okay, so we only have 2. We have the income and expense, so that is why I don't want to show the deficit as one of the headers. So in this case, we have the income and expense. So as we demonstrated, or I demonstrated here, when we look at this, I have the income as a head, then all those income is grouped under the, including sales, sundry income are under the income column, which is the header. Under the expenditure, I have expense as a title, followed by all the expenditures within those categories. So when we look at this, let me rename this one to let's say head gallery. Okay, so having gotten the header gallery, so let me make it a little bit bolder. Okay, so what we are going to do is to insert this gallery in the parent gallery. So it's a gallery within a gallery. So we copy this sub gallery. Let me name it here so that it will become clearer. Sub gallery. Okay, because of the existing gallery, so let me change it to sub sub-gallery 1 or sub-gallery 2. Okay, so we copy this gallery, go to the head gallery, then insert, Ctrl V. Okay, so I can then hide the original one that we did and then make this one a little bit bigger. Okay, so as we can see, we see that we have inserted the original, the smaller gallery that we did into the head gallery. So you can see that when you scroll, all the income and expenditure is under one of this, and the same thing is repeated under the expense column. And we are going to ensure that only the income side is shown for the income header, and then only the expenditure side also shows for the expenditure header. In this case, we need to filter the sub gallery. So we are going to add another criteria by filtering the joined tables. So we have filter. We are going to filter this where the type, remember the type in the chart of account, where the type is equal to the header, is equal to what is in the header, which is what is in the header, which is, let me look for the label, the text in the label. This item dot result. Okay, so the type in this join table is equal to this item dot result, and because of the other bracket, okay, I think I'm having an error here. I'm having an error. Let's see. No. No. That's the problem. Okay, so the error filter. Okay. Okay, so this gives us a view where we have only the income being shown under the income, then the expenditure being shown under the expenditure. The other thing that we have to do now is to make sure this the gallery, the sub gallery extends downwards or shows the number of items as it is clumsy now. So we're going to work on the height of the sub gallery. In this case, because the header gallery is a flexible gallery, it should be able to fit the number of rows that will be shown in the sub gallery. So on the height of the sub gallery, we are going to count rows, the number of rows in the sub gallery, and I have a video on count rows you can check out. So we are counting the number of rows in the sub gallery, in this case sub gallery 1, 2, 1 dot all items. We are counting the number of items in this gallery, and we are going to multiply it by the template height. The template height of this gallery is the template height of this gallery, which is also sub gallery 21 dot template height. So having counted the number of rows in the sub gallery, we are going to multiply it by the height of the gallery, which is the template height. So gallery 21.template height. Okay, so that will expand and show us the various items under both categories. So what we have to do is to go to the header and then push the first description a little bit up. Okay, and then bring the description under the subgallery a little bit down. Let's bring the various items also downwards. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's reduce the size a little bit to say 16. Be 16. Okay, so we now have the gallery and the sub-gallery clearly shown. So we have the header, then we have the income under it, then we have the expense also showing under it. When we go back to the one that I demonstrated, it clearly shows same. So now what is left now is to be able to filter using the various dates. So let's copy this and insert them here. Okay, it doesn't look nice, but this was for the purpose of demonstration. So we are going to filter the dates. We are going to filter the sub-gallery based on the date that is chosen. So it is a matter of just adding, having inserted a filter here already. It's a matter of adding another a filter criteria that is going to filter based on the date that will be chosen. So on our sub-gallery, let's add another criteria that will be able to filter based on the date chosen. So I have this code here, let me paste it. Okay, so the name of the date is date-1, start date, and then the end date 1. Because I already have the start date. So end date 1, start date, and end date 1. So this is the name of the date control. So we are going to filter based on the date that's going to. So let me explain what I have just done. We have the month column that we did at the beginning for both the transaction and the budget data sources, and then it's also found itself in the joined table. Now the month year column, as it was that we added, became a text column, so we needed to convert the date month into a date value, because the purpose is to compare whatever it is in the month year column with the date that is chosen. So we needed to ensure that both the month year column and then the date picker that is chosen from the date control are in the same data types. But once this one is a text column, we needed to convert to a date column. Then for the purpose of the date picker, is also already a date column, so you shouldn't have, or I shouldn't have converted it to a date column. But because of the picking or conversion into a month column, because we need to ensure that both the column which is originally in the month year column and then the date that is to be chosen here is converted also into a month year column, ignoring the day column, in order to ensure that they both match to be able to compare. So having done this, we can now go ahead and do a check out how it shows. For we have the, when we look at the table, I have January and then February. For the purpose of comparison, I have only 2 months. So when we pick the January, when we pick any dates in February, it's supposed to filter. So we can see 500, 560, 5,000, 390. When I change, we see that this one is 1,000 and then 1,120. So basically, this is how the budget variance analysis could be achieved in the Power Apps. And as it is, it could be also be better achieved in Power BI. I hope this was successful, and I hope this has actually given you some lesson or tips. And let me hear your comments below. I also appeal that if this has given you some lessons, kindly share and then click on the subscribe button as well as the notification button, so that anytime I come up with a new tutorial, you will be able to access it. Thank you very much.